Before 1965, there used to be hundreds of kids dying from severe dehydration at the University of Florida Health Shands Hospital. After 1965, this came to a halt. The question, of course, is why? What happened? Why did the number of kids getting hospitalized for dehydration suddenly plummet like stock markets during a recession? Well, what happened is Gatorade. In 1965, a ragtag group of scientists, coaches, and sports enthusiasts invented Gatorade, and the world of sports changed for life. But Gatorade did more than just make sportsmen better. It also saved lives. And this is Gatorade's story. But before we go on, this is Munchable, and we want you to like, subscribe, and smash the notifications button, because if you do that, you get access to loads of amazing content. Have you done that? Great. Let's get to it right away. Before Gatorade could even think of doing anything of that life-saving business, the drink had to be invented first. But Gatorade wasn't one of those drinks that were invented because the inventor wanted to make more money. No. The drink was actually invented by a university. And as you know, universities aren't interested in making money, but they are weirdly interested in taking it. But let's leave that. The question is why? Researchers surely didn't just wake up and figure that it would be nice to have a drink named Gatorade, right? Yes, that's true. In 1965, a University of Florida football coach named Douglas Duane noticed something. No, he didn't notice that football wasn't actually often played with the foot. Instead, he noticed something else. And that was that his players were losing a lot of weight in between games and during games. According to his estimation, some were even losing up to 18 pounds. To make matters worse, these players were not urinating despite drinking several tanks of water, and they were suffering from heat stroke. This meant that the players were in terrible shape and were actually losing a lot of games. To solve this problem, the coach of the team, Douglas Duane, spoke to Dr. Robert Cade, a kidney specialist at the University of Florida Hospital. Dr. Cade developed an interest in solving the problem and decided to speak to other professionals at the University of Florida. Their goal was simple. They were going to develop a drink that would replace what these players were losing through their sweat, which was carbohydrates, salt, and electrolytes. Going by this explanation, it's easy to assume that all the research team needed to do was to mix sugar, salt, and electrolytes together to create the super sports drink. But if it were that easy, somebody would have done it already. Dr. Cade and his team, which included doctors like Dana Shires, Harry James Free, and Alejandro de Quesada, finally created Gatorade. However, the Gatorade that Cade and his team first came up with isn't the sweet drink you know today. In fact, one researcher reportedly vomited after trying the experimental drink. The earliest versions of the drink were basically a mix of sodium, sugar, phosphate, potassium, and water. But when the version of the drink was given to players, they reportedly said that it tasted like bodily waste. Imagine how bad tasting a drink has to be for football players who are known for eating and drinking anything to refuse it. That's basically the equivalent of Coca-Cola saying another drink is too sugary. Or Lil Wayne saying someone has too many tattoos. Or Munchable saying another YouTube channel has too much content. I mean, you get the idea. Dr. Cade's wife took one sniff of the drink and told her husband that it would taste better if he added lemon juice to the mix. And that's exactly what he did, and yes, it did improve the drink. What we're basically telling you is that when women tell you to do something, just try to do it. Who knows? It may just lead to the creation of $1 billion company. Sadly, by the time Dr. Cade was ready to unveil his newly improved drink, the coach of the University of Florida's football team, Douglas Duane, had been replaced. The new coach was Ray Graves, but like Douglas Duane, this new coach was interested in the drink as well. In the summer of 1966, the Florida football team, which was actually called the Gators, still is called the Gators, began to drink the beverage during practice. This time they didn't have any qualms with the taste, as it sounded way better than it used to. And unsurprisingly, the drink worked. Not only did the weight loss problem improve, but there were also a significant drop in the number of players that were hospitalized for dehydration and exhaustion. At this point, the researchers who developed the drink knew that they had to name it something. At first, they thought to name it Gatorade, because, it was an aid for the Gators. But they finally settled on Gatorade because they didn't want it to be marketed as a scientifically validated beverage. They wanted it to be a commercial one. In essence, they weren't making a drug. they were just making a sports drink. The "aid" suffix, if put at the end of Gator, would mean that the researchers would have to prove it had clear medicinal use. Now, this wasn't a problem. The problem was that to do that, the team would have to carry out scientifically rigorous tests on thousands of people, which is something they didn't have the patience for. During all of this, Dr. Cade saw that his invention could even be of more use because, well, it's great to have fewer football players losing a couple of pounds every week. But is this really a legacy? This and other thoughts like it were what made Dr. Cade approach the University of Florida Health Shadd's Hospital. He believed that Gatorade would be a useful drug to give children that were suffering from dehydration. The hospital's doctors were at first skeptical, but then they agreed. Before Dr. Cade had approached the hospital, hundreds of babies were being admitted every year for severe dehydration, many of whom died. But this totally changed overnight, and that was all thanks to Gatorade. But let's go back to the world of college football, where Gatorade was already getting the attention of the other teams. In 1967, just 2 years after the formulation of the Gatorade recipe, the Gators, which were the football team of the University of Florida, had their first ever Orange Bowl win. Now, you can call it a coincidence, and you may yet be right. But how likely is it that the Gators would win their first Orange Bowl just after they'd started taking Gatorade in between games? It's not very likely, that's for sure. Or do you think it is? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Now, where were we? Yeah, right. The Gators had just won their first Orange Bowl, and amazingly, this happened just a year after the invention of Gatorade. To make things even more peculiar, the coach of the Yellow Jackets, which was the opposing team, Georgia Tech, they said that the team lost to the Gators because they did not have Gatorade. Yeah, those were his exact words. We didn't have Gatorade. That made the difference. So, basically, Gatorade had saved lives and had won the Orange Bowl within just 2 years of its creation. After this admission by the coach of Georgia Tech, other football teams began to sit up and notice what was happening at the University of Florida. After all, no team wanted to be in the position of Georgia Tech. They didn't want to have the excuse of not having Gatorade. Shortly after the Gators' Orange Bowl victory, Dr. Cade entered into an agreement that provided Stokely Van Camp, Inc., SVC, a canned food packaging company, with the U.S. rights to production and sale of Gatorade as a commercial product. And with that, the Gatorade that you know and probably love was born. In the same year, Gatorade became the official drink of the NFL. The drink began to grow in popularity, and by the 1980s, it was already a national sports drink. In 1983, Stokely Van Camp was acquired by Quaker Oats, and Quaker Oats was in turn acquired by Pepsi in 2001. And all through this, Gatorade grew in popularity until it became the only brand that sponsors all 32 teams in the league. Today, over 100 billion ounces of Gatorade are sold every year, and all this happened because some sweaty boys were losing weight in the summer of 1965. The most ordinary things can lead to the most remarkable stories, and that is the story of Gatorade. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure and smash the like and subscribe buttons. This is Munchable. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and remember to have an amazing day.